Aloha, everyone. This is Chair Ian Ross calling to order the Thursday, July 18th, 2024 regular meeting. This is our first meeting of the fiscal year, so we'll be having elections coming up in just a bit. But we begin with City and County of Honolulu monthly reports. And we're going to, one second. We're going to start off first with the Honolulu Fire Department. Do we have a representative with us this evening? Seeing none, I'm going to ask Logan to keep an eye on this and let me know if they come in. We're going to move on to Lieutenant Segusio of the Honolulu Fire Department. Thanks for joining us this month.
Good evening, Chair Ross and all board members and everyone in attendance. Lieutenant Segusio, representing the Honolulu Police Department District 1 Community of Responsibility. Thank you guys for your time and patience. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into the stats. I know you guys have elections today. So the statistical information for the month of June and the previous month of May is going to be motor vehicle thefts for June was 8. It's actually down from 13 from the previous month. Burglaries is slightly up at 11. Previous was 9. Thefts, dramatic drop, 29 from the previous month, it was 49. UMVs or car break-ins, 19 from the previous, it was 15. Assaults were 9, previous was 10. Sex assault was 1, previous month was 0. Graffiti cases were 1 for both months. Drug offenses for the month of June was 0, previous to that was 3. Total calls for service for your area was 2,113 compared to the previous month of May, 2,374. So calls for service remain slightly up from the previous month, slightly down, sorry, from the previous month, but there's no made some checks on in regards to robberies in the area, and there were none reported, and there's no actual criminal breaches. I'm actually looking into the thefts and the dramatic drop, trying to see if I can correlate anything to it, and then maybe we can continue that phase so that we can keep those numbers down in regards to that statistical information. So I just wanted to touch bases real quick on last meeting on Mr. Kawano's question in regards to those rental scooters and children riding them. I think majority of those scooters are coming out of District 6 or Waikiki. They're easily rented through an app. One thing with those apps, they don't check age verification, right? One person purchases the application to get those scooters, and then people get on them. But I did ask my officers, especially on night watch, to do a little bit more enforcement, or at least informational stops, so that we can keep these people safe. Those things are kind of move pretty quick, and if they fall, it's kind of a dangerous thing. Also, I wanted to touch bases on Mrs. Uemura's question about regards to the illegal parking in front of the Chick-fil-A on Beretania between Pensacola and Victoria Street. I went and checked those signs several nights, those signage areas, and I did not find any violations. But like I said, if you do find any vehicles parked there illegally during the illegal times, please contact HPD. Have them come out and address the issue. If you're not satisfied with the officer's actions, go ahead and request for a frontline supervisor, and they can meet up with you. Yeah. So with that, I just wanted to pass on an invite from our major, Paul Okimoto. He's going to have meet the major coffee time at Coffee Bean and Tea at 1170 Oahe Street at the South Shore Marketplace, Ward Villages, this coming Friday, so tomorrow. From 8 to 10. So 1170 Oahe Street, Coffee Bean and Tea, upper level command staff, lieutenants and above, and as well as Captain Henry Roberts will be there to answer any questions, comments, or concerns from the community. And the safety tip for the month of July is going to be regards with checking your vehicle's back seat. With temperatures running high during the summer months, we want to keep our keiki and our pets safe. Temperatures within a closed vehicle can get up to 120 degrees in several minutes during when parked in direct sunlight. With people rushing and having things to get done during the day, we may sometimes forget that we have precious cargo sleeping or resting on the back seat. Let's have our community members make a conscious habit to make checks so that we can prevent any tragedies. At this time, I'm going to yield back the rest of my time and take any questions from the board members and public attendees.
Thank you very much. We're going to open it up first to board members. Do you have any questions from board members?
Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
Lieutenant, is that 8 a.m. or 8 p.m.? The meeting with the major?
8 a.m., sir.
AM.
Yes, 8 to 10, sir. And I'll be there. So I'll buy you a cup of coffee, sir.
Okay, I have a question from Sam.
Lieutenant, we often have like trees down or landslides up on the top of Tantalus Round Top Drive. And there's been situations where we've had issues and needed the police to come out, but they often come up the wrong side of the road. Is there a way that we can communicate this to emergency services when there's a landslide or some sort of slip so that you guys know exactly where to go?
Very good question, Sam. Awesome question. So the delineation line or the split where it turns from Tantalus to Round Top is Forest Ridge Way. So if you could say if it's east of Forest Ridge Way or west of Forest Ridge Way, we can tell the difference. Or if we can come up Tantalus or we can come out on the Round Top side. Very good question. Because our officers sometimes get confused. Sometimes the numbers or the location is kind of switched around. So it's kind of a difficult time when we come up the wrong way and we have to come all the way down to come up the other side. But very good question. East or west of Forest Ridge Way?
Thank you very much. I recognize Claire now.
Thank you, Chair. Lieutenant Segusio, I just want to say a quick mahalo to HPD. We had a parking lot brawl over a parking space on Alapai Street a week or two ago. 7 police cruisers, 2 arrests. Thank you all for handling it so nicely.
You're welcome. I relate that to the day watch officers. Thank you.
Okay, do any more questions from the board at this time? Hearing none, thank you everyone for keeping this expedited as we do have board elections in a little bit. Thank you so much for attending and giving us this report. And we definitely look forward to some analysis on why you think some of these crime statistics have come down. In addition to that, we're at the start of the fiscal year. If we were able to do a bit of an aggregate of the last 12 months or even 6 months, it doesn't have to be that comprehensive. I think it could be really useful for the board at the next meeting.
Oh, absolutely. So let me take a look at 6 months. I don't know about 12 months. It might be too far back. Might be arduous to get those last 6 months, but let me bring that back to you guys on the next board meeting. Absolutely.
Yeah, it might
sir.
be nice to see the trend. So thank you so much. Okay, I think we're going to move back to the Honolulu Fire Department. Thank you for joining us in person. It's good to see you folks. Yes, please.
How's it going? We are Engine 3 Makiki 3rd Platoon. We'll start with the incident statistics for last month, June 2024. We had 2 structure fires, 1 wildland or brush fire, 2 nuisance, includes rubbish fires outside of a structure or vehicle, and 3 cooking fires, 9 activated fire alarms for last month. Moving on to our medical emergency side, we had 156 medicals, 3 motor vehicle collisions with a pedestrian, 9 motor vehicle crashes or collisions, 1 mountain rescue, and 2 hazardous material incidents. Our fire safety tip for this month is heat safety. Hawaii has some of the highest average annual relative humidity in the country. I think we all know this and we can feel it. When it's too humid, our bodies have a harder time cooling down, which can lead to heat-related illnesses. So in the past decade, in Hawaii, the average number of hot, humid days and very, very warm nights have more than doubled due to climate change and are expected to increase at this time. So we have a website here, www.resilientoahu.org/subscribe to sign up for updates on heat in Hawaii this summer. Make sure you guys are prepared for that. So our tips there are keep cool with fans or AC spaces, stay in the shade, wear lightweight, loose-fitting clothing. Drink plenty of water, please. Plenty of water. Stay out of the sun as much as possible. Wear a hat or take an umbrella. Check on your neighbors at risk of high heat-related illnesses. And for more resources about heat illnesses, extreme heat, or how to prepare, you can find that at www.heat.gov. That's what we've got for this month. We'll open to any questions at this time.
Thank you. I'm just going to start with the questions. You had mentioned collisions, and I think I saw on the news a really tragic, about a tragic moped accident here in Makiki. Do you have any details that you're able to share about that? I don't think that was us.
Yeah, so that wasn't our watch that responded. We didn't hear about that one. We wouldn't be able to give you any details about that particular incident this time.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to open up to the board. We'll start with Claire and then we'll go to Harris.
Firefighter, I have another mahalo tonight. last night. So apparently someone about a half block from me in their condo tower decided to barbecue and smoke out their neighbors and terrorize that there was a fire. And how many of you responded? I don't know. It was after 10 p.m. But thank you all very much for your quick response, and a reminder to people, grilling on your lanai is not the brightest idea.
Highly not recommended. No, thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to Harris.
Thank you. Harris Nakamoto. I just wanted, yesterday, at our, Nice Neighborhoods, we have a monthly meeting, and, we were very, fortunate that Daryl Mao came. And so
Yes.
one of the, a lot of representatives from the condos, various condos in our area. So one of the questions that was, asked to Daryl was, what were the, common types of fires that occurred within the condo? And he mentioned, about lithium ion batteries, in terms of that becoming, with more and more of the, motorized scooters and all that, the fact about when you're charging the batteries,
Mhm.
how that would be very helpful in terms of somehow getting words out, because many in this area, of our residents are in the condos.
Okay, so you're looking for more information on like lithium ion safely charging these batteries and that sort of thing? Okay, we can log that down when we be able to share more information next month. As far as like a quick tip right now, if you're going to be charging, those devices, make sure you're present. Any kind of warping or heat to that battery that you're charging is kind of an indication that something is not right. We'll recommend that you follow the manufacturer's kind of advice on that, but we can go ahead and grab some lithium ion safety tips from our CRO section and have that for next month. No problem.
Would you mind, we just realized we didn't get your name at the start.
Oh.
Just for a record.
No problem. Firefighter, race, and youth.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
I had a question if there's any public funds or funding for whether it's fire extinguishers or fire blankets for the community, to promote people, to put out fire, to help people if they don't have the
Mhm.
funds for a fire extinguisher, if there's any kind of funding like that.
Is that like for a residence or in public spaces?
Yeah, residents both, if
Both.
there's any type of funding like that or programs.
Sorry, there have been in the past programs for smoke alarms and various types of devices. I'm not aware of anything going on right now.
Okay.
That would include fire blankets or
fire
smoke
blankets.
alarms or fire extinguishers. Usually those are tied to some sort of a federal grant
Okay.
that gets pushed down, and then that gets pushed out from the county level. We can look into it, but again, if there was something like that going on, I feel like we probably would know.
Would it be a good idea for, us as neighborhood board to kind of push that, bring that topic up to our politicians? Do you see a lack of fire extinguishers or fire blankets in the community?
Fire blankets, I haven't seen any.
Okay. Do you prefer those?
Fire extinguishers, we don't use fire blankets
Okay.
ourselves in a fire department capacity.
Sure.
The thing that I would caution is that it's good to have fire extinguishers readily available in the home. Fire blankets get you a lot closer to the fire, and so
Yeah.
there's a PPE issue and things. And what we really want you to do is gather your loved ones, go to a safe place, and call 911.
Okay.
That way we can make sure that, because life safety is a
Sure.
primary component of what we do, right?
Yeah.
So if it costs us a stove or a car, but it saves a bunch of lives, then we would rather you gather and get out. But as the neighborhood board, it cannot hurt to push forward for fire safety with blankets and extinguishers and smoke alarms, and anything in that capacity is probably a good idea.
Do you find a lack of those devices in people's homes?
Not generally. What I find a lot of is a lack of maintenance. Fire extinguisher you bought in 1978 and put underneath the kitchen stove or the kitchen sink, it's probably not good anymore.
Okay.
And so to have in the back of your mind constantly that, oh, don't worry, I have a fire extinguisher, and having never had looked at it or checked it, there's an annual requirement to have those things serviced or checked in any kind of commercial capacity. There's no requirement in a residential capacity, but common sense would prevail, right? That it's annually you're required to service it in a commercial because of the nature of the tool. Then you should at least be looking at it annually, if not
Maybe
whenever you change the batteries in your smoke detectors.
and something we could maybe promote to with our neighborhood you
Yeah.
know, checking your fire extinguishers.
Check your fire extinguishers, look, read the box. The box will say what it is. Sometimes it's just a matter of shaking it, turning it back and forth, checking the gauge. If you're not sure, they're not that expensive. Home Depot has them.
Okay.
They're readily easily replaceable.
Thank you.
And then larger than you think. I always tell people, don't buy the.
I recognize
Don't buy
Claire.
that one.
Sorry. I recognize Claire at this time.
Hi, I just want to add to that, that the Red Cross does still have the program, Sound the Alarm. I still have my back. We do go, I'm a Red Cross nurse. We do go around doing home education, inspection, and installation of fire, smoke detectors. We defer to fire department who comes around with us sometimes of the year. You have that special community team, yeah? To do education about fire blankets, because those do bring you close face to face with a fire. So for now, we tell people, grab your go bag, get out and shut the door behind you, because these fires spread when they leave this door open. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to see if we have questions from anyone else in the audience, online, or here in person. Otherwise, I think we'll move on in the agenda. Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for being here. Definitely appreciate this report and the answers to our questions. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you guys.
We have one more report before we get to the election of officers. So Board of Water Supply, Michelle, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. Michelle Harmon, your Board of Water Supply. Oh, sure. Your Board of Water Supply representative. So we don't have any main breaks to report this month. For your general water announcement, we'll just quickly let you know that our annual plant sale is coming up on Saturday, August 3rd. It's free entry, lots of info booths, soil conditioner, and we're giving away an art prize too with a native plant and a native bird on it. So I encourage you to come from 9 to 3 at our garden. And then I have your questions. Sorry I couldn't be with you last month, but Stephen passed along your questions and I have the responses. So there are 5 of them. So if you'd like me to email or text these answers to you, I can do that as well. Okay, so was the water pressure on Green Street higher than 40 PSI before the recent new developments in urban Honolulu were built? No, construction developments in the area and within urban Honolulu do not impact the water pressures on Green Street. Static water pressure is based on a reservoir's location and meter elevation. Customers on Green Street will continue to experience lower water pressure at 40 PSI. This is due to the elevation of the reservoir that supplies water to that area. Please note that 40 PSI is considered within range and adequate according to BS's Board of Water Supply rules and regulations. Second question, if a resident on Green Street wants higher water pressure than 40 PSI, do they need to purchase a pump? Answer was, if a resident prefers to increase water pressure, we recommend purchasing a pump. Third question, a resident of 1137 Wilder Avenue reported low water pressure in her building and requested that somebody from BWS come and check it out. Answer was, we kindly request that customer to check with their building manager first. If they have questions and or concerns, please have them contact the Board of Water Supply so that we can follow up. And if you folks need, I can provide contact info. Does the Board of Water Supply offer any kind of tax credits for customers that have lower water pressure? Answer was, the Board of Water Supply does not offer tax credits for lower water pressure. Last question, the board requested for a presentation on Oahu water management for the future at the August board meeting. And we're working on that with Chair Ross to schedule a presentation at the August board meeting. Okay, so that's all I have for you this month. So I can take down any questions and get back to you folks next month. I know you're on a time crunch.
I'm going to jump in first. So for the first question, very sorry, maybe it's just the way it's worded as opposed to the way it was looked into, but it does sound like the answer to the first question had a bit of circular reasoning, where there was some question about whether recent development had decreased water pressure. And then the argument was, no, for good reasons, we think, you think that it wouldn't do that. And then the follow-up question was, okay, well, based on some timeline before the construction, say a year ago, was the water pressure ever recorded as higher? And instead of like giving us a sort of PSI analysis, instead said, well, because construction wouldn't have decreased water pressure in the past, the water pressure must not have been higher, as opposed to actually addressing and looking at the facts, which is why we had asked that. So do you know if they actually, if someone actually compared the PSI of previous years to today? before we got that answer?
From what I've heard from the folks that we've talked to, they have looked into it and said generally that that area experiences lower water pressure. I don't know, somewhere there must be records of tests and things like that, and I can try and see if we can find those for you.
Okay. And, we're not expecting like some sort of scientific paper or longitudinal analysis of multiple years, but just something that we might be able to point to would be pretty helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members at this time? And just get back to that point, you're the experts on this. So you're saying new development's not decreasing water pressure. I think most of us are heavily inclined to believe you. There was just concerns by the residents, and it's very helpful for us to substantively be able to point to something in response to what they're sharing as their experiences, as opposed to just saying, well, we hear your experiences, but we've been assured that's almost certainly not true.
Okay.
So just a little bit helpful for us.
Yes, totally get it. I
Okay.
understand.
Any questions from anyone online or any other attendees? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for your report.
Oh, thank you. I'll see you all next month. Aloha.
So now we're going to move on to election of officers and confirmation of board details. Before we get to election of officers, I want to make a strong recommendation that after the election of chair, that whoever's the new chair, pound their hand on the table once and call an immediate recess. This is a very good logistical practice, as there might be a few things that occur, as opposed to someone maybe not having good access to mic or gavel suddenly being chair. Okay, just want to make that recommendation. We're going to open up first. So this is to serve for the term of July 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Whoever is the chair at that point would continue as interim chair, as I believe I'm currently an interim chair, until the following meeting. So the election of chair, we can start that out now. Normally, chairs would often recuse themselves or hand it off to vice chair, but I believe as someone who intends not to be a candidate, there's no conflict in me chairing this portion of the meeting, correct? Perfect. And so there we go. So again, I want to reiterate what I mentioned last meeting. While I would be flattered for nominations, I would decline any such nominations. So with that, do we have any nominations for the position of chair of the MakikiLower PunchbowlTantalus Neighborhood Board number 10? I see one hand up. I recognize Nathan.
I'd like to nominate myself, Nathan Char.
Very good. We do not need any seconds. Are there any additional nominations?
Again.
Okay, John. All right, we got a second nomination, John Steelquist. Okay, I believe at this, I'm going to give it another few moments to see if there's any other nominations at this time. Okay, so I believe it would be a good practice at this stage to allow 2 minutes. If we have a lot of races for other elections, I reserve the right to bring down to 1 minute, so we're not here all evening. But the office of chair does seem to maybe deserve a little bit of special treatment for the discussion of the direction of the board. I just want to ask between the two candidates if either would prefer to give 1 or 2 minutes of remarks first. Okay, so would either of you like to speak? Okay, then I'm going to select Nathan Char to speak first. All right, please take it away. 2 minutes.
A little background. Well, I've been serving, this will be the 6th year now of serving on the neighborhood board. We've seen quite a bit. We've seen quite a bit. We've been through COVID. We're still not out of the woods yet with an increase in COVID cases. And in large part, thanks to COVID, we've seen an incredible rise in homelessness in our area. So I'll continue the fight for, affordable housing. And I hope my number is available, and I know at least my email is up online. So if anyone has any concerns, feel free to call me. Email me, and I will ensure that your concerns are put on the next agenda. And I hope we can work together and put together letters and resolutions to pass on to our elected officials to ensure that our voices are heard. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'm going to give 2 minutes on the clock to John Silquist.
Okay, I joined this board in '83 and became chair the next year. And I was that until 6 years ago when we had a request to take over, which is good. So I'm happy to have other people do it. I've got the experience, so I don't mind doing it again. So whatever you want.
Thank you very much. I was talking to Logan earlier. I understand we actually didn't close nominations, so I'm going to give a last call before we close nominations. Okay, seeing none, I believe we take the votes in the order they were received. Is that right? Or are we going to have a call out for the based on last name? Roll call on last name or yes or no? Okay, we're going to do a roll call based on the names. So, and if there's no objection, I'm going to call for the question. Okay, so Logan, if you want to start us out with the roll call, and at that point, when you hear your name called, please share John Steelquist or Nathan Char.
Baldwin.
Char.
Carson. Char.
Char.
Fujinaka. Granger. Kawano. Clink. Kojima. Lakalaka Manapuna.
Char.
Lee. Mitchell. You're muted, Sam.
Steelquist.
Nakamoto. Peck. Salasa. Santos.
Stillquist.
Steelquist.
Steelquist.
Ross.
All right, I've been tallying the votes, and we have 8 for Char and 4 for Steelquist. And so, as the deciding vote on this, I appreciate both candidates. I'm casting the deciding vote for Char.
Recess.
You sit over here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
No, this one's dead. I didn't know you were dead. This one's dead, Jane. I don't know. And it's.
You press the button. There. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Claire, if you don't mind me getting
Thank you.
get the mic facing away from the speakers. And please note a request to change agenda.
Sorry.
There was a request to change agenda
Oh.
order. It has to not have the opposition.
Okay.
You don't have to take that. It was
Okay,
requested
so,
by an
yep. All right, so continue, so we just continue the election.
Yes.
So you can just
open
it up. Okay. Okay, calling the meeting back to order. We'll continue on with the election of officers. So this is for the office of the vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? I recognize, oh, yeah.
I'd like to
Paris,
nominate Claire Santos.
Okay, so we have one nomination for Claire Santos. That does not require a second.
Nominate Chuck Lee.
We have another nomination for Chuck Lee. Okay, but he is politely declining. I'll keep the nomination period open a little bit longer in case anyone else is interested.
So we still have to go through a vote.
Okay, seeing,
I would like to nominate John Steelquist.
okay, and we have a second nomination for John Steelquist. And you don't need a second. I'll go ahead and close nominations as we now have two. So we'll go ahead and actually, I'm sorry. Would either of you like a couple minutes to speak before the election?
Hi, I am new to the board and still learning, but willing to jump in. However, I did nominate John Steelquist for a reason.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speeches. We'll go ahead and call the question.
Okay, so the nominations for vice chair are for member Santos and Steelquist. If you could just say the last name again. Baldwin,
Steelquist.
Carson, Char,
Steelquist.
Fujinaka, Granger, Kawano, Clink, Kojima,
Steelquist.
Lakalaka Manapua,
Steelquist.
Lee, Mitchell. You're muted again, Sam.
Claire.
Nakamoto, Peck, Salasa, Steelquist,
Steelquist.
Santos,
Steelquist.
Ross.
Steelquist.
Okay, so the final tally is 10 votes for member Steelquist and 4 votes for member Santos.
Congratulations, Steelquist. Okay, moving on in the elections. Next up is for secretary. Are there any nominations for secretary?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yep, go first.
The reason we have a secretary is because we have a neighborhood assistant who takes all the minutes. But if we ever have to have a meeting without secretary, then we have to have somebody to take the minutes. So you have to be maybe every third year or something like that.
Yep, I'd like to recognize Ian.
Thank you very much. Adding on to what Vice Chair Steelquist said, we've also done an addendum to the rules. So the secretary shall collaborate with the chair within 5 business days of the approval of resolutions, letters, and other formal board communication to ensure its prompt distribution to relevant parties. And fulfill the duty of ensuring accurate minutes of the boards are taken. The secretary shall review minutes at each monthly meeting prior to the subsequent meeting. So we've adopted those as informal rules, which we of course can rewrite at any time, but I just wanted to add that as our current bylaws for the officer position. And if there's any other questions about other officer roles and duties, I'm happy to fill those in upon request.
Thank you very much, Ian. Oh, I'll recognize Richard.
Nominate Ian Ross.
I will accept this nomination only if all of you pledge that none of you want to take this role under any circumstances. As a last resort, I will fill an officer role position for you. But one reason I stepped aside as chair was to enable the next generation of leaders, not to hold some of the very important positions on the rung. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further nominations? Would anyone like to step up to secretary?
I nominate Claire.
Okay, so now we also have Claire as a nominee. I thought I saw Thomas's hand go up and then come down.
Well, Santos was nominated, so that's why I put my hand down. But I used to serve in the capacity as a neighborhood assistant, and a lot of those responsibilities are mirrored by the secretary role in, a smaller scope. So, if anyone was interested, I could take it on as well.
Am I to understand that you are nominating yourself?
No, not necessarily nominating myself. No.
Okay, it looks like Eric Salasso has nominated you, Thomas.
I accept the nomination.
Yep, Ian. I'll recognize Ian.
I would like to decline the nomination that I received. Thank you very much, Chair.
Oh, and I'll recognize Claire.
I'm going to decline the nomination as well.
Okay, I'm gonna close the nomination, and we'll call the question. I believe we'll go ahead and call the question.
Okay, for the position of secretary, member Baldwin was elected. It's silly, there's only one name, but if you could still say Baldwin. Carson, Fujinaka, Granger, Kawano, Klink, Kojima,
Baldwin.
Lakalaka Manapuna. I think you might be muted, Jenny.
Baldwin.
Thank you. Lee, Mitchell,
Baldwin.
Nakamoto, Peck, Salasa, Santos, Steelquist,
Baldwin.
Ross, Char.
Baldwin.
We have, and Baldwin.
Baldwin.
We have 14 votes for member Baldwin.
Congratulations, Thomas.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to treasurer, the election for treasurer. Do we have any nominations for treasurer? I recognize Richard Kawano.
Nominate Claire.
I'd like to recognize Ian.
I would just want to ask if member Kojima was interested in continuing the role, if that's permitted.
I haven't been particularly effective. I will decline the nomination.
I'll give it a little bit longer, see if anyone else has any nominations. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the nominations and call the question.
For the position of treasurer, member Santos was nominated. Baldwin,
Santos.
Carson, Fujinaka, Granger, Kawano, Plink, Kojima,
Santos.
Lakalaka Manapuna,
Santos.
Lee, Mitchell,
Santos.
Nakamoto, Peck, Salasa, Steelquist, Ross, Char,
Santos.
Santos. 14 votes for member Santos.
Okay, and then we also have the opportunity to establish any new officers for the board that we determine need to conduct business. In the past before, we have had created the second vice chair position. Is the board interested in a second vice chair once again, or? Seeing, Ken, go for it. Sam Mitchell. Okay, so we'll take a nomination for Sam Mitchell for a second vice chair. Yes.
We do have a role for second vice chair in our bylaws. The second vice chair shall assist the board by conducting timekeeping during meetings of the board. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ian. I guess, Sam, do you accept the nomination?
I don't think so. That means I gotta come to meetings. Can't do it on by computer, so no, that's not now.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. Do we have any other nominations for second vice chair? Or for any other position we would like to create? Seeing none, I suppose we'll keep it to the normal officers. So now we'll move into establishing the meeting date, time, location, and format. Starting with the meeting date. Sorry, I guess first off, would we like to keep everything the same? So the third Thursday at 6 o'clock here at the United Korean Association. Sorry, Korean Cultural Association. And then also keep the virtual format. So this would be the, I guess, hybrid.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, recognize Ian Ross.
Thank you very much. I'd like to motion that we maintain our meetings on the third Thursday of every month. And that it begin at 6 p.m. with the intended end time of 8 p.m., intended underlined, at the Korean Cultural Community Center of Hawaii here at Makiki District Park, and that we include a hybrid virtual.
We have a second by Claire Santos. Discussion.
Move to accept by acclamation.
Yep, seeing none, let's see, is there anyone opposed to accepting the motion? Or abstaining? Seeing none, the motion is passed. Moving on to the determination of our recess schedule. We get up to 3 per year, but they cannot be consecutive.
Sure.
I'd like to recognize Ian.
I would like to motion that we keep the tradition of having recess in December and only December.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion,
Chair,
Thomas.
it's a friendly reminder as well. Keeping those extra recesses on hand does allow us to make a decision later on if we would like to recess at a different time of the year. So it's always nice to have two in our back pockets.
Your point is well taken. Okay, seeing no further discussion, let's see if nobody is opposed or abstain. Let's see if we can pass this by acclamation. Is anyone opposed or abstaining from the motion, accepting the motion? Seeing none, the motion to have a recess in December passes. Moving on to the adoption of oral testimony rules. So currently, we have anyone wishing to speak is asked to raise their hand, and when recognized by the chair to address comments to the chair, speakers are encouraged to keep their comments under 3 minutes, and those giving reports are urged to keep their reports under 3 minutes. Please silence all electronic devices. Do we have a motion to?
Chair.
Yes.
I move that we adopt the following oral testimony rules. Anyone wishing to speak is asked to raise their hand, and when recognized by the chair, to address comments to the chair. Speakers are encouraged to keep their comments under 3 minutes, and those giving reports are urged to keep their reports under 3 minutes. Please silence all electronic devices.
We have a second. Yep. Yep. Open to discussion and by Ian.
Thank you very much. So during my time as chair for the last, I believe, a year or two that we've had these rules, I've noticed two common trends coming up. One, functionally speaking, I've always had to provide anyone giving report more than 3 minutes. Secondarily, allowing 3 minutes for every discussion point was something I would attempt to do, and it'd be front loaded in the meeting, and then I'd be forced to cut back comments later in the meeting. And that was always rather painful for me, though all of you are quite indulgent with that. I'm not speaking against this, but I did want to put forward an alternative where we might consider a 2 minutes for speaking, keeping it really tight, and 5 minutes for reports unless otherwise specified. If other people find value in this, maybe we can move forward with it. I'm not specifically making a motion, but I'm just going to say if we don't adopt this rule, I suspect that Nathan will have to use his purview as Chair Char to often bend this rule for the best, in the best interest of the board. Thank you.
Your point is well taken. Any further discussion?
Chair.
Would we yes, Thomas.
One possibility we could do is amend that motion to say 2 minutes for speaking unless otherwise stated in the agenda. And then the agenda just tends to have under every report 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, so that you as the chair can adjust those times depending on the meeting.
Okay. Yep.
Rather than have it listed on the agenda like that, Thomas, I would just recommend that you guys just include in the oral testimony rules that everything be at the chair's discretion. So if you guys trust Nathan around the meeting, then, you know, he's just has the ability to, you know, give people more time if they need, cut things short, things like that.
Richard?
Yeah, I think we should stay with the 3 minutes. I mean, those are all fungible, but at least it's a guideline because somebody that, you know, if you have it open, somebody might come in here and think, gee, I can speak for 6 minutes, 10 minutes, you know. It's a good guideline, and that's all it is. You know, we're not locked in cement on those numbers.
Thank you, Richard. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, is there anyone opposed or abstaining the current motion? Seeing none, the rules of speaking are adopted. Moving on to the motion to establish new committees, designate chairs for those committees, and adding members to the committees. Harris.
You know, observing our meetings over the last year, I I wanted to see if we could establish a new committee that would be called Concerns and Solutions Committee in terms of more of an outreach. Because sometimes we have the same individuals who come and they don't seem pleased with the follow-up. And so maybe there's an opportunity for us to have a committee to get them involved, to see how we can together and then come back the next meeting versus it being isolated just to the board or to the individual departments that are posed to.
Ian?
Thank you, Chair. To Member Nakamoto's point, I believe it is Board 11, the Ala Moana Kakako Neighborhood Board has something called an action committee, which I think fills much of the same role and gets to have the word action in it, which makes it really clear what it's supposed to be doing. But I'm trying to recall, Logan, are you also the assistant for Board 11? No, okay. I was hoping that maybe someone could tell us the exact function of the action committee, as I haven't personally attended. I just know of its existence. Oh, you do? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so the action committee for Neighborhood Board 11, basically that's where they work on their draft resolutions and any things that they want to take up in the regular board meetings. That's where they do a lot of the, work towards. That way they come to the, the regular meetings with more of a finished product, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this committee is really not focused on developing resolutions, but really to engage with our community who bring concerns to us. But also, what we want to do is involve them into address their concern, but involve them into the solution component so that it becomes there's some skin in the game in terms of them becoming part of the solution. And that way we can work together to understand what the concerns are with them, and then also address or try to work on the solutions. And then hopefully having them bring back of how it was solved, and then we can learn from that.
Sure.
Thomas?
Member Nakamoto, I have a question as to how you imagine that this might work in a meeting. So I imagine this would be if we have community concern, someone comes up to the, to the board with a concern. We always nod our heads and say, well, we'll get to that. You might imagine that the chair would then say, all right, we'll refer this issue to the concerns committee, get with our committee chair, and then you would schedule a meeting to actually really follow up and get in depth on that issue so that when we come back at the following month, we have something more actionable to discuss on that issue. Am I understanding it better?
Yes, you are. In reality, for example, just as an example, say within a community, in a certain specific area, they bring up concerns of drug use, and late at night, a lot of activity going on, then we can work with them to understand, but also work in terms of whether if it's the appropriate department, and then we can learn how to address the situation. Same with, like, say, speeding or the racing that's going on over and over. So working together with the proper authority in terms of addressing monitoring, and then having, for example, like where I'm at, we have a lot of racing going down along the highway going from Kinao down to Punahou, that straightaway. So we work with HPD. They ticketed about 8 guys over the weekends, and that kind of slowly start to stop. But then there's this gradual, it's a process, but at least the neighborhood or the individuals who bring up the concerns are seeing the progress of things happening.
Yeah, thank you, Harris. I'm going to quickly ask for some clarification. It sounds like this might actually be better as a permitted interaction group. Logan. So because the committee has to set up meetings and have an agenda and let everyone know of our meetings ahead of time versus a permitted interaction group, which has slightly different rules that might be easier to meet and address these concerns.
I have a suggestion that you leave it up to the chair, whether it gets assigned to this and otherwise. You have to pass every motion twice in the small committee and the big committee. So if the chair decides, yeah, well, that we need some help, or no, I think I can handle this.
Chair, Chair Nathan.
Chuck.
Yeah, I
or
just
first-
want to add on to what Harris said. As far as the permitting the pig group, I think his group probably would be better served by just being more independent, like how we have our neighborhood security watch things. Because I think we run into a lot of bureaucracy if we are part of that. And I think what the purpose of his, because I had a brief discussion with him about it, I think a great idea. I think what he wants to see is like nothing falls through the cracks as much as possible. I mean, even and something is followed through more than just, you know, having it brought up all the time. So that's basically it. And I think if the chair would allow his group to be more independent and just, of course, report back to you and communicate to you and the board, I think that would work out better.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. I'll recognize Ian.
The question that came to mind for me, and echoing what Chuck has said, obviously there's a need for this. The question that came to mind for me was whether this be an official action of the board or an unofficial action, what you're taking. So for example, with the action committee, you said that you didn't see as much value in that format because it would recommend motions, letters, resolutions, which are of course official statements of the position of the board. It sounds like you're talking about more direct action follow through. But of course, to do direct action as a board, we would have to adopt that as our intention, right? And secondarily, of course, one of the roles the board plays, and a common role that many boards play, is that advisory role, where we're working with government as a voice for the people and community, highlighting areas of need that need to be addressed, as opposed to as a community taking the direct action to solve that. Now, we have actually taken direct action to solve problems as a board before, and that's a fantastic, maybe we should do more of that. But that would be a clarifying question for me as to whether or not what Chuck's model is talking about, what you're discussing, or what I brought up of action committee makes the most sense. Is this an official action of the board, or is this unofficially the board is supporting sort of individual actors who are going out and almost hand-holding or cheerleading or working with individuals with concerns to better navigate the neighborhood board system? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. I'll give Harris a chance to respond.
What I'm thinking is an opportunity for the board to have a committee to refer these concerns to. And then that committee could take up as an agenda item these issues and then report back to the board about what had taken place in terms of this was brought up on the meeting of Thursday, July 18. Follow up with one of the neighbor residents. This was taken up. This is the progress. Still working on it and so forth. But what it does, it kind of helps those individuals who come to our neighborhood board to share some of their concerns. Is somehow we have the ability to refer it to a committee that can do the follow-up. But not them just throwing it into the committee, but them stepping in to be involved into the solution.
Okay, thank you, Harris. Thomas. I'll recognize Thomas, and then we'll go to Logan.
Thank you, Chair. Just one comment I'd like to make is that while I agree that a few things can fall through the cracks, and having a solution for that is important, we should try to find that solution. One challenge I see with making this a committee format is that the committees have to go through the same process that our regular neighborhood board does. They need to create the agenda. They need to follow the sunshine law. Oftentimes, the neighborhood commission requires that all of our agendas for whether it's our board and multiple committees go out together. And that could lead to scheduling conflicts where the committee often will run into the same problems that we are with following up on issues, is that it takes time. And sometimes it might be better for individual actors in the board to raise their hands during a meeting and say, Chair, I'd like to actually follow up with this resident after the meeting and work with them and come back at the next meeting to talk about what we were able to find. Sometimes individual actors have a lot more flexibility to find solutions than the whole board can. I think that might be a better tool in this situation. So that's my comment.
Your point is well taken. And now, Logan.
Yeah, Tom hit it right on the head. I was going to say much of the same. The one thing that I would say that the value of a committee would bring is, if you guys are committed to, getting those agendas and those minutes submitted in a timely order, the committee can serve as, a place for more fleshed out discussion, right? Here at your guys' regular meetings, you guys can be, time constrained and can be a lot of agenda items, right? And so a lot of times these community concerns, it takes up a small portion of the meeting, or, people, they might not even get a chance to speak because of the way that you guys move through things sometimes. So the nice thing about a committee, it can be another avenue for people to go to where, oh, I brought this up at the regular meeting, but I'd love to, have an opportunity to talk to you guys about it outside, where you can, at a committee, you can invite someone from, let's say like a city department who might be able to speak onto it, and you can have an informed discussion on a singular topic, or, one or two topics, something like that. But it would still, like Tom said, you would still need to, go through the process with agendas, minutes, stuff like that.
Thank you, Logan. I will recognize Ian.
Actually, brief question. If we did form this committee, would you want to chair it?
Okay, I believe we've had a robust discussion on the forming this committee. Do we have a motion to form the committee, perhaps with a truncated name, so that it's easy to get to the heart of what it is? I do like the idea of perhaps the action committee. That seems to speak to the core of what we're trying to get at. Richard? Okay, so Richard would like to move that we form the action committee.
Second.
The second by Claire.
Brief discussion.
Discussion. Ian, I recognize Ian.
I was going to say, typically I'd be pretty skeptical of this, but I've noticed Member Harris has really put a lot of work in the year that he's been a member of this board. I know he's recently held a community meeting. I raised my skepticism earlier, but I'm going to vote in favor specifically because I think we should give Harris a shot at this. I really believe in him and what he can bring. I do still have my reservations on some of it, but I'll add that I would be willing to assist with any of the navigating of the bureaucracy of the neighborhood board system to help Harris be successful.
Thank you, Ian. Harris?
Yeah, this is not a committee of one, so, I think we should, make sure that I don't mind heading up the committee, but I would like to see at least maybe 2 others or 3 others be involved, because that would help in terms of working together. And I think also, if we call it the action committee, just so that it's not mistaken by another board's action committee, we should make sure that it's either defined in terms of, because we're not looking at putting together resolutions. We're looking to be a landing spot for individual residents to bring their concerns and to address in terms of developing solutions.
Logan?
It's sort of in the vein of a problem-solving committee.
Chuck?
Yeah, and I would volunteer on your committee.
Okay, we'll go ahead and continuing with discussion. Did we have because I believe the current motion is on setting it up as the action committee. Did we want a really quick amendment to change it to the problem solving committee?
Or how about nice neighborhoods?
Isn't that taken?
Nice neighborhoods.
Isn't that taken though?
Oh, no, it's expandable. Yeah, but I think it really focuses on community pride. If we have community pride in terms of whatever's going on, I think people getting involved and stepping up, I think that's the key to this. What we're trying to develop is community pride. We want people to feel that, they're invested.
Okay, Harris, might you make that amendment to change the name to Nice Neighborhoods? Nice Neighborhoods Committee.
Yes. I move
Yep.
to call the new committee a Nice Neighborhoods Committee.
Seconded.
Okay, I'll just, is there anyone opposed or abstaining from the amendment? Seeing none, so now the committee that we're talking about is the Nice Neighborhoods Committee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Is there anyone opposed or abstaining from forming the Nice Neighborhoods Committee? Seeing none, we now have the Nice Neighborhoods Committee. Okay. And as Harris has volunteered to serve as the chair, I'll go ahead and designate member Harris Nakamoto as the chair. And here's where we add members. So do we have any volunteers? I saw Chuck earlier. Oh. And sorry, the committee is open to any member, so including non-neighborhood board members. So if anyone from the public would like to join the committee, feel free to show or raise a hand and we can put you on.
Point of information.
Ian?
Opposite point of information. I have information. We've been using a Google form for a while to sign up. I just went ahead and created the new Google form so people could sign up for this committee. It's not official because I'm not a chair, but the chair can make it official whenever he wants, and he has editing permissions. Here you go, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ian, for being proactive on that. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so far the two members are Harris Nakamoto and Chuck Lee, and I'll keep an eye on the sign up to see if anyone else is interested. We'll move on. And are there any other new committees that we would like to establish? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to board business. So the first item of board business is filling a vacancy. We have one in Subdistrict 2. Oh, excuse me. I've been informed that we don't have a vacancy anymore. We have a full board. Okay. 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 Okay, so there was a request to swap the items on the board business. We'll move the resolution to request a full environmental impact statement for the proposed bridge over the Alawai Canal and University Avenue and Kalaimoku Street residential neighborhood site before we'll take that up, or the request is to take that up before proposed 54-unit tower at 1617 Alapai Street. Do we have any opposed or any opposition to moving the resolution up? Thomas.
Chair, I was going to say, I was here before the meeting started when Laura Ruby discussed having or wanting to swap those items. She did mention that after 7 o'clock, she would lose the Wi-Fi access of the location that she was at. So I actually just wanted to ask Laura Ruby, how's your connection right now?
I found another one here in on the Big Island, and so I'm on for the next 40 minutes or something like that. So I'm okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Chair,
Richard, yep.
what exactly, this sounds like a pretty onerous request, a full EIS study. So Laura,
Oh,
what ex-
sorry, we're not in discussion yet. We're just, this is just to swap it forward. Is there any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take that up now. For it, Richard.
So Laura, you're the one that's proposing that we vote for a
Yes.
full EIS statement. So what exactly does that mean and what sounds pretty onerous. This is for
Okay.
the bridge over the Alawai.
That's correct. Okay.
I'll
But it's-
recognize
okay.
Laura so she can
Yeah, thank you.
respond.
Okay. Just to put it in perspective, a lot of money has come from the federal government, and there are federal regulations that have to be followed within that giving of money. And basically, the Department of Transportation Services and the Complete Streets have not followed that. They have not written, all of us that have testified over since about 2015 have not received anything written back, nor have we seen anything that has altered their way of thinking. They literally have the same language each time when they come back to us with reasons why something could or could not be done. But basically, the difference between a full EIS is to allow the full human environmental component, that is the social, the cultural, the historical, as well as the physical environments. It's about the whole picture. And what we're trying to say in this full EIS is that it's about the site. It's a park. Right now, you folks are at a park and you're meeting there. Just imagine this huge tower and a huge hunk of cement that's running right through the middle of the park as an ADA off-ramp. Basically, that's what they're going to do to the Alawai Park. And it bisects the park, and it will put up a concrete barrier on the Alawai Boulevard side, and it will literally be, sort of changing the character of the neighborhood. So if I can see what I put in the full EIS, basically, I won't go through every single thing, but there are regulations that they have not followed. There's gonna be a meeting tomorrow, and I'd like to think that they have something written and that they've answered our questions. And by the way, we have respondents for Winston Welch from the Outdoor Circle and from Michelle Matson of the Oahu Park Conservancy, and from Kirsten Faulkner of the Hawaiian Historic Society Foundation, rather. So there's a lot of people besides myself that have been weighing in on this. And one of the, I can just, I don't know if Logan wants to put it up on the screen or not, but I'll just try to abbreviate. You don't have to know these resolutions to know that they have not been followed yet. And what I'm hoping in this resolution, already the neighborhood, the Diamond Head Neighborhood Board and the Manoa Neighborhood Board have approved these. So oops, something happened here. Okay. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good. Logan just
Okay.
shared the
Okay, that's good. One of the very important things is that there's the historic Malia canoe that's at the halau right in the park. There's also the canal is sort of historic. The promenade on the Waikiki side is historic, and the whole park, the Alawai Park, is historic. So you have to do certain kinds of measures to satisfy anything that is historical. That's over 50 years old. Then we also have the Diamond Head Special District, which suggests.
Okay, Laura. Sorry to cut you off. Would you mind summarizing your remarks?
Oh, well, I can just say that the Waikiki Special District, the Diamond Head Special District, and the zero build, which is very important along the whole green belt, is not been enforced yet. And there's something called Policy 4F, and that says that any parkland that is taken away that has federal monies must find the same park space acreage in the same neighborhood. And none of that has been followed yet. We have a Migratory Bird Act also that has not been followed because the Kolea and the Manu who have been
Sorry to cut you off. Thank you so much. Your point is well
What we-
taken.
Okay, but what we'd like is the,
Yeah,
your support from your neighborhood board so that we can go ahead and try to have these people prevail a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can answer questions. Yeah.
Do we have any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, Ian.
Pardon me, I just didn't want to discuss first. There's two things that stand out most directly to me about the proposed project that give me concerns. The first is the height. I believe, as we heard from Ruby last meeting, the proposed height, I believe, stands at 160 feet, which to me, for a pedestrian bridge, is pretty shockingly tall. And, you know, there's certain concerns. I'm not always the one who raises concerns about view planes and things like that. I think for housing, you know, there's like weighing of different interests, but it does strike me as a rather tall structure for use. And it's not as if we don't have other bridges that we could model on and similar designs. The second thing that stands out to me is the ever-growing price tag. To me, it does potentially seem like a design that may be maximizing matching federal funds as opposed to meeting the most direct community needs. I don't have too much direct evidence on that. This is just speculation. I will highlight my part, but it does seem to maybe have constructed the concept from a different angle than direct community need. With all that said, I believe a pedestrian bridge offers additional access to and from Waikiki in an era of unmitigated natural disasters that are unprecedented. This can be potentially very useful to have multiple routes in and out of areas. So in principle, do not want to come off as opposed to a pedestrian bridge, but I thought those two things really stood out to me. I'll also mention in the motion, there is just one part under the be it resolved that the CNC City and County would seriously respect the community's wishes. I think that's a slightly opinionated on it. I would just say cut that part and just have thus this resolution urges the city council to, and continuing after what I see as an opinionated sentence. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
I can agree to that also. Thank you. Yeah. Can I make two quick responses to that? First of all, it's 170 feet that they've come down to 10 feet. And the other thing is the amount of money, as Ian suggested, it's going to go way up because our taxpayer dollars will be involved with full-time security, full-time police force, full-time maintenance on this large structure. If you think of the Kalakaua Bridge and just going a little bit higher and narrower, that's about what a footbridge would be like. It is not possible to escape across a bridge under any natural disaster. It would be flooded and people would have no place to go. It's a standard, you sequester above the fourth floor. So that's a standard thing that they're just not telling people and they're not accepting. But that's about the bridge. This is about the site. It has, you know, maybe in any Sunday, there's over 100 Pacific Islanders that use the site for many, many hours, as well as many, many other days of the week. But that's besides the canoe paddlers, the community gardeners, and the Makuli leagues and everything. So I don't want to take more of the time, but I'll respond to any questions that you folks have. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution before us. We currently do not have a motion to accept to adopt the resolution. So would anyone like to motion to adopt? Ken. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, now that we have the motion before us, the resolution, would anyone like to make the motion to amend the resolution such that we cut out the language?
I would like
Chair?
to make a motion. Oh, pardon me. I was beaten to the punch.
Thomas.
I move that we amend the resolution to strike, after the language be it resolved, to strike the comma and the language that the CNC would seriously respect the community's wishes. Thus, I think it's thus. Yeah, thus this 2024 resolution, just strike that language and replace that with urges the city and county of Honolulu. Like, just continue from there. Be it resolved, and include language that this neighborhood board urges the city and county of Honolulu.
That's fine. I agree.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And then hopefully it's displayed, Ian Ross, yeah, edited as we speak and is displaying the amended resolution. Do you have any further discussion?
Yes, I'm actually inclined to motion to also just allow the chair to make conforming edits. I'm just noticing little things such as underlines and stuff, which I don't think are necessarily necessary, but also I don't want to bring up on its own. So just in case the chair is so inclined to make just stylistic amendments, I would actually like to motion my motion to add that. And I think that's good standard practice for all motions.
Second.
Yeah, is anyone abstaining or opposing that amendment to give me the leeway, or the amendment to the amendment to give me leeway to the chair leeway for stylistic and grammatical corrections?
And I agree.
Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. So returning to the amendment. Any further discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone
Chair.
opposed or abstaining? Oh, sorry, Thomas.
Sorry, there's also language at the very bottom. It's very small, but it also is the copies of the resolution will be sent to. And at the very bottom, it says any other parties that need to be notified. Just a clerical point. Are there any other parties that we think need to be notified that aren't on that list? And if so, I'd just like, if not, I would, no matter what, just like to strike that language so that we just have the parties listed there.
I agree.
Small clerical, but
Mhm.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that one more time?
I move that we strike that language, any other parties that need to be notified, and insert. Well, that's actually just the amendment. And if any of us feels that we need to add any other parties, then we can add it after this.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is anyone opposed or abstaining from this amendment? Seeing none, back to the now amended amendments. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Is it?
Well, you guys are like amending amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, close it out so we can get back to the original.
Okay. So we're currently talking about closing all the discussion. Going back to the original amendments. Is there anyone opposed or abstaining? Yes. John.
170 is what she says.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Is anyone opposed or abstaining from adopting all the amendments to adopting the amendment to the resolution? Seeing none, the resolution has been amended. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, is there anyone opposed or abstaining from adopting the resolution? Seeing none, we have now adopted the resolution.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to now the proposed 54-unit tower at 1617 Alapai Street. I recognize Claire.
Well, thank you, Chair, and I did request 5 minutes. And thank you all for nominating me for every possible seat on the neighborhood board. I'll be the second vice chair as well. This topic today has to do with affordable housing and special district design guidelines, and it does affect me personally because I live in that area. So I will not, I'm not asking for any resolutions tonight, but if we were to vote, I would have to abstain. 1617 Alapai Street is a proposed affordable housing development that our entire community is opposed to. This, next slide, please. I will start with the original developers, those two men in overalls. On the left of my dad, on the right is my uncle. They were dairy farmers and smart dairy farmers. When they realized they could not raise, I'm one of 10 kids, I'm the 8th of 10 kids, cannot raise 10 kids on 3 cents profit of a quart of milk. So they got really smart. They were the greatest generation, born in 1919. They got really smart, and I'll show you later in my presentation how smart they were. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the area of 1617 Alapai that the Paul Lamb construction folks are planning to knock down all those historic houses that were built in the 50s and put up a giant 54-unit tower. 2 years ago, when that land was purchased from the family, a family that had managed it beautifully for years, the new owner told me he was going to make a 3 or 4 story walk up of affordable units and parking. Somewhere along the line, this morphed into not a 4-story walk up, but a 60-foot tower of 54 units. Next slide, please. Okay, that is Alapai Street. That is the building I live in. Across the street from that is part of the Kahalemoy condominium. We are a market value condominium, 80% owner occupied, directly across the street. My condominium was built in the 70s, and it's part of the reason that the special district design guidelines exist, because we want the city, Honolulu, the Historic Preservation Commission, wanted no more towers along Punch Bowl. This is very important preservation area. It is Hawaiian historic, and it is our National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. The outer slopes of Punch Bowl to Prospect Street are part of the special district. My building was built in the 1970s, and again, part of the reason we have the special district guidelines is so that there are no more towers over there. Across the street is all houses. Everyone who's developed or renovated their houses has maintained the 40-foot height limit measured from Prospect Street. Next slide, please. Okay. This is the giant tower that they want to put in place of those little houses. It's monstrous. It will completely obliterate all light to my building, which means solar panels no longer work. Gardens will not be grown. My ham radio will no longer be able to reach a repeater, that's for sure. It's just heinous, okay? So this developer is planning 54 one-bedroom micro units, which is 400 square feet. Try to fit a family in 400 square feet. 11 parking stalls for the 54 units. 54 units would be at least 100 more people. Alapai Street is 21 feet wide and a dead end with 7 parking stalls. How do you justify? Second to that is the city allowed 24 sewer hookups. Are these people going to be sharing a bathroom? Because 54 units and 24 sewer hookups doesn't quite work. This whole Bill 7 thing, people get all kinds of allowances and free fees, and they get away with a lot of stuff that's now touching me, and I don't like it. Next slide, please. Okay, currently, if you stand on Prospect Street and look up Alapai, you see my building on the left. It does, aside from the height of the building, does comply with the special district guidelines. We do have green space as well. On the right is where the new proposed building will be. It has the houses, the 1950s houses on it. You can easily see Punch Bowl, and the special district guidelines, one of the premises is that you can see the slopes and Punch Bowl from the street. Okay, next slide, please. This is what will happen when the 60-foot tower goes up. This giant structure obliterates not only the views of Punch Bowl, but everything when we look out our window will just be concrete and windows. And 54 units with 2 air conditioners each, that's 108 air conditioners running. Night lights on the building, it just defiles everything in the neighborhood. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I'm asking everyone, and I'm asking the city, take a beat. These affordable housing areas need to be thought out. We need to be mindful of neighborhoods, thoughtful of neighborhoods, respectful of neighborhoods. Okay. There's an apartment building next to this one that is actually affordable. There are other affordable buildings right in my area. It's not like we're saying not in my yard. What we are saying is we have worked our butts off to have what we've got, and now somebody's going to walk in and just obliterate it and add 100 people to our little street. And it just does not fit in the neighborhood. The affordable housing needs to assimilate into the neighborhood. We welcome new neighbors, but this giant tower in the middle of houses and obliterating Punch Bowl is just wrong. Next slide, please. Okay. A few weeks ago, and you heard me thank Lieutenant Segusio earlier, there was no parking because 130 vehicles come out of my condo and the building across the street. There are 4 driveways. 130 vehicles are going in and out of there with only 7 street parkings. Somebody parked where they didn't need to be, and a brawl ensued. 7 HPD officers, 2 arrests. What are we going to do with 100 more cars?
Sorry, Claire, I'm gonna have to cut you
Did I
off.
make my 5 minutes?
Yeah, if you could go ahead and summarize your remarks, please.
Okay, hit me the
Thank you.
next slide and I will, that is what I want to show you. Those 2 old dairy farmers who never graduated high school sold the cows and put up a beautiful garden apartment complex, which paid for 10 kids' college educations. It fit in with the neighborhood. They exist. That is them today. They're as pristine as the day they built them in 1959. All affordable housing does not have to be a giant tower stuck in people's faces. We need to be mindful and thoughtful of existing neighborhoods. And in the future, I will be asking for resolution, but for now, my property manager is taking over to do petitioning and appeals to ask, last slide, please, ask him to cut it down to 40 feet, not 60 feet. We're not saying not in my neighborhood, we're saying assimilate and make it work for all of us. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Eric?
Would be 4 stories measured.
Sorry, if you guys could use mics, thanks.
40 feet is a 3-story step up?
If measured from Prospect Street, he could make it 4, but I think a 4-story walk up is cruel and unusual punishment to a human.
And hopefully parking, more parking.
11 parking stalls.
They need more parking.
Bill 7 says they don't have to have any parking. Bill 7 says I'm getting conflicting information from the city council and DPP. City council tells me, okay, they can go 60 feet, but all the other special district guidelines are intact, but DPP says no, they aren't. I've for 2 years been getting run around and getting misinformation, disinformation, no information. It's been a wild ride. So I'm very happy right now my property manager is going to step up and help, because this is not the thing for an army of one.
And how many units and stalls are in your facility, your building?
My particular building, we have 109 and everyone has a parking stall. Okay. Kahale Moy has, where's my paper? 110 parking stalls. And then across the street has 18 for their units. And then on the street is 7 remaining parking stalls. We have a lot of illegal parking happening, which has led to collisions. It's a mess as it is now, and we're all just gingerly working around each other, but put another 100 people in there is just insane.
Plus that 5-way intersection.
And it's that 5-way intersection, which people are parking right up to the stop sign now. They knocked down the no parking stall sign. They not only knocked it down, it disappeared. And they're parking there because there's no parking. So if it's crazy now and people are getting in HPD level wars and accidents, what sense did it make to allow this to be a Bill 7 affordable housing 60-foot tower? This makes no sense whatsoever. It's in the wrong district. it defies all of the special district guidelines. And I don't know who, what, or when decided to carve out a piece of special district punch bowl and make it part of the urban core. Who divides a national historic monument, historic area to make it part of an urban core? I don't know what the thinking was back then, but you know what? We can correct it now. Nothing's permanent.
Thank you, Claire. So it looks like, yeah, well, I'll have to, is there any further discussion before I make any remarks? Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, Member Santos. I looked on their website just to get a little bit more information on what the timetable looks like. And the only dates that they give is that they anticipate breaking ground in early 2025. That's from their website. Between now and then, do we know anything else about the timetable for this project?
Claire?
No, no one's offering timetables. All I learned from DPP today was they allowed the joint, they allowed the joining of 2 lots to allow for this giant structure. And now it's moved on to the next guy in the multi-unit area of DPP. They give me no timeline whatsoever. I didn't even know they were planning to break ground at the beginning of the year. I know that the current tenants their leases are up October 24th. That's all I know.
Thank you, Claire.
And Chair, I will put their website in the chat.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Chuck?
Yeah, Claire, do you know if it sounds like this is kind of like a done deal because it says it's in permitting already, but how did they get past the 2 questions? How did they get past the historic housing, the historic house or historic area? Don't they have to go through SHIP D or something like that? Second question is, did this ever come before the neighborhood board, our neighborhood board, or any neighborhood board that you know of?
When I am ready for resolution, which may happen by you folks alone tonight, I am asking that these Bill 7 developments need to approach the neighborhood board and the community, just like the other affordable housing. According to DPP, because I asked, why isn't Paul Lam coming to neighborhood board with these projects? He doesn't have to. It's Bill 7. Bill 7 just wipes out all the rules and gives carte blanche to the developer. It's obnoxious. It's wrong.
Ian?
Thank you. So yes, we have not had Paul Lam or Gina Thielen come before the board. I will mention though, they came up last meeting, they sent a letter. So I did have a chance to sit down recently with both of them. It was earlier this week. Forgive me for not remembering the day right away. So noteworthy in this consideration is they're also the developers of the Ernest Street property. So a lot of the discussion was focused in on the issues like the gravel on the roads that we saw earlier, and also about the processes and what goes through for DPP. So the best I heard from them, so I didn't ask this directly as was worded by Claire and some other members of this board about the timeline. And it sounded like from them that through the DPP process, they expected the timeline roughly as Thomas Baldwin had shared. I wasn't given any drafts of the building, so I can't confirm the other details at this. They had mentioned about 50 units. So as far as that's the only other part I can kind of corroborate on that part. Thank you.
Yep,
It
so-
is 54 units. But yeah, the slide I used was from Ocean's Realtors, I think is their name. They are the property managers who are not well managing the current property.
So, so I was with Ian at the meeting earlier this week. So they have expressed an interest in collaborating with us. So I'll go ahead and ask that they try and show up and answer a number of our pressing questions, as we clearly have a bunch. Is there, other than I mean, that's all I can say about my commitment towards that. Is there any other concerns or any further discussion on this topic? Steelquist.
Can we oppose it now? We have enough information? Seriously. The farther we let them go, the harder it is to stop.
Personally, I would like to have them do their presentation for us to try and, get some of these details to see what, what's happening, what's going on, and as well as clarify some of our questions. So that's my personal preference before we start voting on stuff. But we are free to make a motion, second it, and then vote on it. So, Claire.
I want to caution you. I noticed Paul Lem on TV saying everything at 1427 is rented and all that. I walked my dog through there for a long time. No one was biting on the affordable housing thing. And I walked there one morning just to see what was what. And a couple of gentlemen came out and one of them lives there. The other one was helping him set up a bed. And they explained that the people living there were people who didn't qualify for Section 8, basically homeless folks. I don't know if that's all of them, some of them. I don't know who's paying their rent. But just be careful with what information you're given and ask for details. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Claire. I believe in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and close the discussion on this and move forward. Like I said, I will reach out to those folks and see if we can get them to sit down with us next meeting. So next up is the motion to support proposed sale of Piquet Mini Park. Ian?
Now that I'm not chair, I'm still finding a lot of opportunities to speak, and I please forgive me for that. I think this issue is really important. We, of course, have a standing opposition to the sale. There are about 3 or 4 competing interests that this board and the community feels, and I would recommend as we continue in the process, we start to really narrow in on which we prioritize most. And like a lot of you, I'm not fully on one camp or the other. So there's a few things. There's the fact that it's green space. And if it were to be privatized, it would continue to be green space. There's benefits of looking at it. There's benefits of the heat, but there wouldn't be benefits of access. You'd privatize the access. But then again, those who have access would now have access to a rather nice park versus right now, no one having access to any quality of park. The other issues relate to homelessness. Of course, this is a site where a lot of homeless individuals go. But, they do it seeking shade. They do it seeking a green space, a little bit of a cooler area. And the board was somewhat divided on the idea of turning that into maybe a sanitation area because people were going there versus making sure that homeless individuals don't have access to it at all. This is a point that the board is very divided on. And I see a lot of nodding, and I can tell people could maybe go either way. And I want us to all to maybe spend a little time considering what vision we have for that. Finally, the community garden has kindly begun the process of trying to take over the park to maybe ameliorate some of these concerns. Now, of course, we'd still have the same problem that is public property. If we're concerned about people experiencing homelessness turning into a campground, that wouldn't be resolvable. There's still no parking there, so it makes it pretty tough for it to be a community garden. But there would be some volunteers to maybe try to clean it up and help us down a middle path. I'll also note, kind of like what we're seeing from Harris, this is real involvement from members of the community wanting to take something on. Maybe we just want to let the community try whether or not we suspect they'll be successful because, maybe as a board, we shouldn't be telling the community not to try to make their community a better place. But those are like 3 or 4 competing concerns and visions. And as we get closer to the city council, maybe having a vote on a sale, we might want to begin to clarify our point. So I wanted to bring that up now when it's not a rush. To maybe open some discussion on it.
Thank you very much, Ian. Richard?
I've heard all the arguments on all the sides. I would support the sale of this park. I just drove by it the other day. It's a dirty little park. Nobody is ever there, and I drive by it almost twice a day going to work and back. And if a private owner says they're not going to develop anything on it and they're keep it nicer, and got the complaints about homeless people there, I would support the sale of that park.
Chuck?
Yeah, I would agree with Richard. I think that if the city had it, there would be no surveillance. There would be hardly any control of it. And it would be the same situation that it is today, which is a lot of homeless running over to the park versus having a more private control of the park, community gardens or private ownership or whatever. So that's my opinion.
Thomas?
So I oppose the proposed sale of the park. And I do think that this leads us to a larger discussion on homelessness, because that, I think, is the core issue with how we perceive that park. Is people don't want to do anything with it. People don't want to go there because of the presence of nearby homeless. And that issue is connected to our discussions on housing, which was the last discussion that we just had. So, I mean, all of these issues sort of blend together. And I think if we want to take a stance on this, we also have to take a sensible stance on our housing policies. The more we build housing, the more we build affordable housing, the more we build units, the lower the prices of housing will become, and the more opportunities that these homeless individuals will have to get off the streets. And if we can accomplish that, then parks like Pi'ikoi Mini Park have an opportunity to thrive again. So that's why I oppose the sale of this, because I feel like we are looking at a short-term solution to something that can have greater benefits to the community if we look at it with the long view in mind. So that's why I oppose the sale.
Thank you.
I-
Thomas? Oh. Okay, I'll recognize Claire and then Sam after that.
I'm kind of torn about that corner. It was only in the past month that I noticed homeless people there. And one morning I did see city workers cleaning up after them, and I thought, well, that's not fair. I like the idea of the community taking over and making it a garden. I am an alumnus of Dole Community Garden. And yeah, I did have to share my harvest with homeless people and probably a few rats and mongoose, but it would have to have tall chain link fence and locking gates to secure it as a garden. So I'm not so sure. It might be the best, safest idea to let the owner seal it off and use it as a park for his own purposes.
Thank you, Claire. Sam?
I agree with Thomas. We really should be telling the owner, if you're gonna buy this property, you should be developing something on it. Just letting it be feral and putting a fence around it is not a solution to the problem. So if the government's gonna be giving land, it should be giving land for a reason. So that's why I object to selling the property.
Ian?
Thank you. I still have a lot of concerns about the sale of public land. I think the hitch here is that this was land acquired as a remnant lot after eminent domains. This wasn't ever planned as a park. And we've heard from the parks that they don't really have plans to be able to maintain it, that these small mini parks are very difficult to put any resources towards as opposed to culmination. But I do want to point out that in our community vision statement, we plan for a safe and healthy community with a lay of parks connected by roads, sidewalks, and public transportation. So we can step away from that vision with a different vision. I don't think there's anything wrong with evolving visions, but it is there. And we also do have in this that we want to be a community where all community members are valued. And we put this specific language next, including the least fortunate. And I do want to keep that in mind because I think on two fronts, this is coming up against our vision for the community. But if we do sell the park, I'm going to fight very hard for an amendment. And the amendment is going to be requesting that the $112,000 from the sale go directly and be earmarked for park improvements in our community. We're fighting for a dog park right now. And if we were to lose quantity, I would demand quality in exchange. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian.
You want this one?
Is there any, oh, Sam, is your hand still up or? Okay. We are coming up on 25 minutes left, 20 minutes left. Is there any further discussion on the proposed sale? I guess hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the discussion of illegal game rooms. I'd like to recognize Ian.
I'll be very brief. Recently, Resolution 24-143 was passed by the City Council after the failures of Bill 5758 to pass, which of course this board supported. This resolution establishes a task force. It's now being enacted. Among the initiatives, it allows for 3 community members on this island to join the task force. As someone who recently had 3 illegal game rooms raided within 2 blocks of where they live, I want to really urge members of our community to consider applying to join this task force. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. And thank you very much for the update. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go forward with the approval of regular meeting minutes for June 20th, Thursday, 2024. Is there a Harris? Oh, okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Does anyone have any corrections? Yep. Is there anyone opposed or abstaining from adopting the minutes? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and adopt the meeting minutes for June 20th, 2024. Next on the agenda, joint neighborhood board meeting with Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board number 11. Okay, I'll recognize Ian.
I'll briefly speak on this. I believe this issue is already resolved. Is that correct, Logan? This is not a joint meeting coming up next Tuesday? Okay. So very briefly, we attempted to have a neighborhood board joint meeting related for neighborhood board elections. We tried to do it out of our board. That fell through for a variety of reasons last month. And then Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board went forward with organizing such a joint meeting, but unfortunately it fell through as a joint meeting, but there is a candidate forum next Tuesday. I have the types of offices up somewhere. It's a number of state house seats, State House District 23, 24, 25, Senate District 12, and City Council District 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian. I'll go ahead and move on to the state elected official reports, starting with Governor Josh Green's representative, Russell Pang.
Governor's representative contacted me and apologized for not being able to make it this evening.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Senator Carol Fukunaga. If you could go ahead and step up to the microphone.
My apologies, Rochelle Gregson for the senator who had a scheduling conflict this evening, but I have a written report, her written report, which I will leave with all of you. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
At our condo, Victoria Towers, we're going to see an intense increase in our maintenance fees because of the state law requiring reserve funding. So where can I find this law? I just want to confirm what we've been told.
You know, I've been working with that chapter of the HRS and now I can't remember the number, but it's under the body of law relating to insurance.
Insurance, okay.
Yeah, so it captures the required insurance for everything in the world, hurricanes, property, everything.
Okay, this is besides insurance. This is like reserve funding for painting, for
I understand.
all these things. And what's kind of onerous about it is that, like painting, they're going to require that we have money set aside to paint our building every 10 years.
I know.
And that's not necessary to have it painted every 10 years. So there's a lot of the stuff in there that maybe the contractors got their fingers into it.
You know, Mr. Kwana, you're touching on an issue that is just one itty bitty piece of a very large and complex discussion that has to take place regarding condo insurance and the cost of condo maintenance condo insurance, reserve studies, et cetera. And I think there are different activities, meetings, task force and groups that are going on within the legislative arena, but also within some of the communities on how best to tackle the issue. The senator has convened a small discussion group to begin some discussion on some of those issues and how best to approach each one. So he does intend to address them. It's a question of how, but in the meantime, if you don't mind, may I contact you and provide you with a more definitive response, okay? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hi,
Chuck?
hi, Chuck.
Hi. First of all, thank you and Senator for all your information about this condo issues. But I like to know specifically if there's any updated information on the life safety evaluation. I know Senator was working on that a lot, and it seems like there's a lot of information out there, but nothing really confirmed. Yeah, I mean, if you talk to some people, you get all kinds of different answers.
I know. You're right. The senator has been working hard on this one. The Honolulu Fire Department is pretty adamant about not moving their position on having LSC and having all of the components within the LSC met by condo. So if you've got a condo that was built before the Marco Polo fire, for example, your condo is probably stuck in this never, never land if you've got vertical shaft openings, interior hallways. The truth of the matter is you'll never pass the LSC. I mean, that's a hard truth. I think, I think we may have to look at a legislative response to that. But I can't say for certain, but clearly that would be one way to look at resolving the issue. Because it is affecting people's insurance and insurability, your ability to buy and to sell. I mean, if you can't get insurance, you're not going to be able to hold on to a mortgage. If you can't be able to hold on to the mortgage, you got to try and sell it. But if it's not mortgageable, you're not going to be able to sell it. So all condo people are sort of caught in a catch-22. And I know the senator is very committed to try and breaking that catch-22 in some way.
Okay, thank you very much. In the interest of time,
Thank you.
If anyone else has any other concerns, if I could ask that you get together, share your contact information with her outside of the meeting. We'll go ahead and move on to, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move on to Representative Della Bellatti's office.
Hey, good evening, Nathan. Tom Heinrich here on behalf of Representative Bellotti. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Tom.
All right, thanks. Also, in the interest of time, I just want to say a couple things real quick. First, congratulations to the new officers to serve for the second year of the term. Really appreciate that. Secondly, there's a lot of information posted now on the legislature's website, www.capital, spelled O-L, .hawaii.gov, concerning all the bills that were passed, et cetera. A total of 253 bills were signed into law by the governor, and 7 bills were vetoed, and 4 bills had specific line item vetoes having to do with budget appropriations. But the decision was made last week at the deadline and stuff not to have a special session to consider override of any of those veto measures. So we are fully done now with the regular session of 2024 and the consideration of all bills by the governor. Just 2 more things that I want to note. The first is Representative Bellotti announced yesterday at the Nice Neighborhood Board, or excuse me, Force of Habit, Nice Neighborhoods meeting with Harris Nakamoto and others, that what is in the works is a public safety and neighborhood security watch training meeting for Tuesday, August 6th. I'll say for convenience 5:30 p.m., maybe just a little bit after that, at the Queen Ka'ahumanu Elementary School cafeteria. So we're just beginning to really work on the logistics now. We just got the approval for the use of that space at that time. The schools are working hard because the kids will be back by then. But all the board members are welcome to that. But we should be getting word out, and especially in coordination with Harris and Chuck Lee. So really appreciate their assistance on that when we have it ready. And then lastly, what Rochelle did not mention, but this morning we had a site visit. Senator Carol Fukunaga was there. U.S. Congressman Ed Case was there at Hawaii Nature Center. So up there in Little Makiki Valley. And it was a very good meeting looking at the circumstances there, and also what some of the opportunities are, both for Hawaii Nature Center as well as the Department of Land and Natural Resources, both state parks and Division of Forestry and Wildlife. So I bring this up to note that we did this site visit this morning with a number of the board members of that organization, nonprofit organization. And Nathan, sometime in the near future, the recommendation that several of us made to the folks there was to try to coordinate simply an informational presentation to the Makiki Neighborhood Board, because there are a lot of issues, but there's a lot of good things going on up there with the coalition between the state, Hawaii Nature Center, and the public charter school, Halau Kumana. So let me stop there, but appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, Tom. Again, in the interest of time, I guess we'll ask that we, if there are any questions or concerns, be sure to get in contact with Tom outside the meeting. Thank you so much, Tom.
Okay, you're welcome.
And next up is Rep. Scott Nishimoto's office. Okay, no one here for that. We'll move on to Rep. Andrew Garrett's office.
I was informed by Rep. Andrew Garrett that he apologizes for not being able to make it and that he's currently on the East Coast for a trip.
Thank you very much, Ian. Therefore, we'll go on to City and County of Honolulu elected official monthly reports, starting with Mayor Rick Belangiotti's representative, Denise Isari Matsubara.
Aloha, good evening. Aloha and good evening. May I offer my congratulations to the new chair, vice chair, and rest of the officers of this board. I look forward to working with you, especially because housing is one of your priorities, and that happens to be my area. So speaking of that, I know Nathan or Logan attached the link for the mayor's newsletter. In it, it addresses one of the concerns on homelessness and mental health. So the city has partnered up with the state, and they've opened up a medical respite in Leahi Hospital. So it's a medical respite and behavioral center. It's being run by North Shore Mental Health. And along with treating substance disorders, they also offer medical services for homeless individuals that don't need acute care. So that's one big win, because they have what is called a crisis outreach response team that goes out in the ambulance to mobile crisis to help homeless, but they have nowhere to put them. So this is one area. Evil A Resource Center, which I've reported on in the past, is another. But mind you, these are voluntary admits. Evil A Resource Center will become an involuntary admit. So we're making progress in those areas. I'd just like to follow up on some of the concerns that were raised at the last meeting. The first one is regarding Alawai Boulevard, the traffic concern. The question was, how will the proposed pedestrian bridge affect traffic on Alawai Boulevard? And DTS, or our Transportation Services Office, responded that the traffic impacts during construction of the new bridge will be largely dependent on the chosen structure and the selection the contractor's means and methods. Consideration of these means and methods, including temporary lane outages, if necessary, will be part of the design builder contract selection process. So I hear your concerns. Normally with big projects comes a full-blown EIS. So I understand you have a request by the board. The second concern was the Bill 7 developer concerns. And the question, I think, was answered, or some of the concerns were answered in the last meeting in terms of the overgrown growth on that Ernest Street property. However, I did recognize that there was one outstanding item, and that was the gravel pit. So the Neighborhood Board Commission will be following up with DPP because they have asked for more time to further investigate that issue. Before I go on to the third item, which was the Makiki Skate Park lighting, I did want to say a little bit about Bill 7 because there's been hearings, and by right housing is exactly that. It's by right. So they don't have to go through the community or council hearings. But what we encourage them to do is come before you, because these concerns, they should listen and hear you and try to address those concerns. That's part of being a good neighbor. So I hope that, especially since the chairs have met with them, we encourage them to come out, because not all Bill 7 projects are built that way. A lot of the other Bill 7 projects come up and they can go up to, I think, 20,000 square feet and up to 60 feet high or something like that. And they have all these exemptions because it's by right. That's already an ordinance, a law. So, but that doesn't mean that they ignore some of these serious concerns. And many of the Bill 7 projects in other areas have parking. And the intent of Bill 7 really is our workforce. It's the 80 to 100% AMI. And 80 to 100% AMI could be 2 teachers. It could be a firefighter and a teacher. You know, it goes up to $100,000, $125,000 for a 3-person income. So that was the target market of this program, to really help with that. So I just want to move to the last item, and I want to encourage you to reach out to that developer and come before you to present. So the last item was the Makiki Skate Park. Can the lights be installed at Makiki Skate Park? I know we've been going round and round. I did reach out to Russell Pang of the governor's office to see if he could just initiate a request with the state DOT who owns the land. Unfortunately, he said he needs a formal request. So if this board could make that formal request to DPR to make to the DOT for it to put up lights, I think that would work. DPR did report that any lighting would need to be approved by DOT, and their primary concern would be the lighting not being distracting to drivers on the freeway and the lighting not impairing or impeding maintenance on the freeway. So that seems to be the concern. They said in the meantime, Ala Park is a lighted skate park in the vicinity, and they encourage folks to use that. So that's all I had for this report. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. In the interest of time, we'll please get together and contact her outside of the meeting. We'll move on to City Council Member Calvin Say's office.
Hi, Nate. I'm here. I'm happy to report that my report is in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you folks may have. I enjoyed this evening's discussion, and we'll see how far we can go, because I truly believe that we are trying our best. As far as Bill 7, Denise stated for the record that it wasn't, basically for what we are trying to see, but more importantly, it was for mom and pop families that would consolidate their properties with their neighbors to build apartments. All of these Bill 7 apartments are in a apartment zone district. And you're correct. I think you should get out and try to see most of the developers in the area of Makiki. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Calvin Say. Again, in the interest of time, if you could please get together and contact Calvin Say outside of the meeting. I'll go ahead and move forward with City Council Member Tyler DeSantis Tam.
Hey, Chair. I think there was my video. Just wanted to report my newsletter link is in the chat. I do want to report there was a constituent request to repair the large hole in the sidewalk next to 1022 Prospect Street. The Department of Facility Maintenance investigated it and determined that a West Oahu aggregate truck damaged the catch basin. And so the private contractor will be scheduling the repairs. It should be coming soon. And so neighbors in that area should be happy to know that. At 979 Prospect Street, there have been complaints of a persistent illegal short-term rental there. They've received several notices of violation in the past. My office has been in touch with both Airbnb and VRBO directly to flag this property. They seem to be operating now within the allowable 30-day minimum, but there's still complaints about short-term rentals happening there. So we're going to continue monitoring this situation. Part of the housing equation, of course, is the illegal short-term rentals as well. So that all plays a role.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your report, Tyler. Again, in the interest of time, if you have any questions or concerns, be sure to contact him outside of the meeting. Thank you. Moving on, resident and community concerns. Do we have any resident and community concerns? Okay, if you could quickly step up to the mic and state your name.
I'm Nina Burke, and I live on Kinau Street near Cartwright Park. And I visited the last community meeting in May, I think. And right after I came, that next week, all the homeless were cleared out, like really quickly, and they maintained it. And they're just starting to come back again. I mentioned that we have 2 illegal game rooms very nearby, right across from Cartwright Field. So I just want to remind you that we're still there. And if you guys could keep, your awareness of the situation over there, because it's a mess. It's really a mess. And we have since put up a gate on our property, 3 gates actually, which they have come over still. They like climb over a chain link fence to get in and stuff like that. But it is still a problem, an ongoing problem. I just want to bring awareness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yep.
So Harris and Chuck, can you folks work with this ladies here? Yeah. And there's these other 2 ladies you folks have been waiting here for quite a while.
Did you have a resident and community concern? Okay, if you could come up to the microphone, please, and state your name.
Okay, the concern is, I think it's 1525 Lipo Lipo Street, the house that burned down 2 years ago. Because from our unit, we can see directly on the property, all the trash that's accumulating, homeless are there. They're building tents, they put it down. I mean, I think only officer was the only one that was kind of courageous to go in there and kick them out. But now I think the homeless on Pi'ikoi Street is going there. And it's gonna, like I had mentioned to Ian before, that it's gonna cause another fire because of the grass growing. I know one HPD officer told me that they found out who the owner was, but where is that person to put up private property, no trespassing, so they can do the violations, right? So that's one. And then there's racing on Pequot Street and Wilder Ave. So my daughter said, why don't they put those speed bump things? Because I was stuck on the sidewalk for an hour because of the car speeding. Because there was a van parked on the sidewalk. So I couldn't get access on the road, which I'm not supposed to. And then another thing is the cracks in the potholes that I have sent photos to Logan and Calvin Say's office. Since like over a year, 2 3 years already, and nothing's been done about it. And 3 broken wheelchairs because my wheels always get stuck into the holes. I don't know if you've seen the roads. It's bad.
Yeah.
Everywhere. My son, my daughter injured her back too. Yeah, trying to lift me up, from the potholes and stuff. Yeah. So those are the that one. And then the cars that park like diagonally on Pequot Street, they block the sidewalk where I cannot even get access to the sidewalk. So I have to call HPD. So they've been citing, and then I know I had mentioned to Logan before if they could put up the the no parking, and that's what HPD officers agreed. If they put the no parking, because it is illegal parking, is what I was told by the officers. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm afraid I'll have to cut you short there, and I'll try to follow up with that. Basically, yeah, issues with Pequot Street. Okay, and so we'll do the we'll skip ahead past the community reports and just do announcements. So the next regular meeting, the next meeting of the MakikiLower PunchbowlTantalus Neighborhood Board number 10 is scheduled to be held on Thursday, August 15, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Makiki District Park and online via WebEx. The meetings can be viewed on Alelo Focus 49 at 9 p.m. on the first Friday of the month and again on the first and third Sunday at 3 p.m. You can follow us at makiki.com/MakikiNB. That's Makiki, the letter N and B. And then board member contact information, you can go to www.8.honolulu.gov/NCO/NB10. And I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting as we are out of time. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry about that.
So the treasurer has no job, there's no money? Fighting who? Who's they?